So today's talk, I want to discuss a bit more about being productive when you are very, very busy, when how to stay motivated. And I'm not saying I'm gonna have recipes that work for everyone, but I'm gonna try to give at least what I'm doing, and I kind of make it work the best I can. So to tell you a bit more about my timetable, because this is the essence of the topic. Um, my day job takes me how many hours per week? Maybe around 50 hours, 45, 50 hours is kind of an 8 to 5 job every day. And being a teacher, sometimes I have to bring some work home and do extra preparation, grading papers and whatnot. So that keeps me busy enough, I would say. In the evenings with CG Spectrum, the school I'm a technical assistant in, I have some classes, and usually I have 2 to 3 sessions every night. So that goes for me between 9 p.m. and usually 11 to 11:30 p.m. It depends. Sometimes there are sessions missing. Sometimes they come and go. And on top of all that, so I have a family and I have a young boy who is now 1 year and a half. And so my life got really, really, really busy at his birth. At first, it was not too bad, at least not for me. My wife was quite tired. But quickly, as some of you, I'm sure, have children as well, when they get old, well, you get more and more busy. So um, when it comes to continuing and making art and learning, and in my case, making 3D, I had to think long and hard on how I would arrange my schedule and how I would try to remain on top of my things. So to be a bit more specific with my timetable, so I come back home, like I moved house to be closer to my school, so it's a bit easier for the commute. Before I had to commute about an hour and a half one way, which was very long and very tiring. We all know that commuting is very annoying. Now I can just cycle to my school, which is like 15 minutes away, so that's great. And on top of being quite cheap, because my school is a bit far from downtown Shanghai. So there is that. And so I get home in the evening, maybe around say 5:30 or so. And after that is kind of relaxed time and a bit family time. And I try to put my boy to bed around, I would say 7:30 to 8 p.m., no later than that. And the reason for that, there are two reasons. One, because of course it's good for kids to go to bed early, especially at young age. And second is because there are things that I want to do and that my wife wants to do. And if we keep our baby up until very late, but that's not possible. So there is that. And so that means that usually in the evening, I have some time, if I have class or not, I have some time to work on my things. So this is how I arrange my time personally. Usually on weekends, I have more free time to work on 3D and practice art and learn new things. Fortunately for me, I have my parents-in-law who come very often on weekends as well, so they can take care of the kid while I'm trying to do something. This is for the main part. I know in the past I've tried to work in the morning, like waking up very, very early. So let's say maybe at 4 a.m. or something, and then getting some work done and then going to work. The advantage of this is that when you wake up super early in the morning, while your mind, maybe not the first week, but after some time when you get used to getting up early, you're fresh and you are very awake and you can do some very, very productive work. And but the downside of it is that if you wake up at 4, well, then you have to go to bed quite early, so maybe at 8 or 9 p.m., which kind of cuts off the night. And it might not be, if you try to accumulate all the hours you can put in your work, might not be that great. And this is kind of a case per case situation. Like some people like to stay late, some people like to wake up early. Like I can't judge for everyone. I just know for me, it was not the best solution. And I guess in the evening, I also feel a bit more relaxed. But when it comes to practicing 3D, I would say in my mind, there is some sort of a hierarchy of things that I want to do. And that needs to be done in my life so that, well, let's go through the hierarchy. So first and foremost, so I have my family life. So I have to have my job and I have to make a decent amount of money, good enough so that we can live nicely, we can buy whatever we want without too much thinking, without going crazy either, and enough to be able to take care of my kid. I wouldn't want him to lack of anything, and he doesn't, so that's great. So that's the step one. Luckily for me, I'm a teacher, which means that my hours are not that crazy. 8 to 5 is not too bad at all, especially I live very close, so it's really not too bad. And then I have holidays, plenty of holidays. So that's also a great thing being a teacher. I know for all of you who have different jobs, your salary might not be that amazing. You might have to work multiple jobs. Your hours might be crazy, and you're gonna have to arrange your time maybe a different way. But for me, my priority is making enough money so that everybody is okay, and then I can think about myself a bit more. And then, so once I'm done with that, um, I try to count how many hours I have left in my day. Um, so let's say past 8 p.m. Let's say my boy is in bed for sure at 8 p.m. and sleeping. Then that goes. Usually, I try to go to bed around midnight, and so that's 4 hours. 4 hours. I have some classes in between, so usually they last around 30 minutes. It depends on the student, but usually around 30 minutes. And so I do have at least 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours of good work that I can put in the evening on my things. Now, that's me now, and 2 hours per day is not that much. On weekends, I can put in a bit more, maybe 5 to 8 hours a day. I still have to be around the house and do things, right? But consider myself lucky. I do have enough time to do some things. Not as much as before. In the past, prior to having a child, I could probably spend at least 6 hours every day, and then on weekends doing full on, doing my 3D work, and that was great. That was very easy. Now things are just, as I'm sure many of you understand as well, just not as easy. The next thing that I want to discuss here in particular is being efficient and how you can arrange your time in a manner so that whatever work you are doing, whether it's 3D in my case, maybe you're a digital painter or whatever you're doing art-wise, there is moments in the day where your brain is more awake and more productive, and moments where it's not. So clearly, when you wake up, this is the best moment to do your 3D work or 2D work. So if you can spare the time in the morning, do that. This is definitely the best moment you can do that. If you can lock in, let's say in the morning from 8 to 12, like a 4 hour period where you can do your art, I mean, there is nothing better than that. But it's not always possible. You might work, right? So for me, I keep that in the evening. Problem is that in the evening you get a bit more tired. So what I try to do, so let's say I can block 3 hours, for example, 3 hours in my evening. Now, the first hour and a half, I will try to do something that requires my brain. So that could be something, for example, I'm working on a sculpt and I need to watch, I don't know, a recording or some tutors on YouTube or a mentor that guides me onto something and be very focused, as well as having plenty of references. So you have things all over your screens, and you have to be super focused and super. You cannot be distracted. And then as the evening goes on, you do get tired, so much so that even clicking on the save button becomes very tiring. And so for the later part of the evening, what I would try to do, I will speak for 3D because that's what I know, but I'm sure there are similar instances in other disciplines. So in 3D, doing stuff like retopology, UVing, maybe building a hypershade, like shader graphs, things like that, or I don't know, assembling a scene, for example. These are not things that require your brain that much. It's kind of click and do, and you can just go on in kind of robot mode. And so I try to keep those kind of easy tasks for the later part of the evening. Now, you might not be at that stage in the project, but try to keep the easier stuff at the very end of your evening, and try to organize your workload such as it works this way. And at least to me, it's been working quite well so far. Now, if you are just a student and you have plenty of time on your hands, then just do as much as possible. I'm now 33 years old. I wish I spent more time when I was a bit younger studying. I don't regret too much, but I do wish I could have been a bit better, definitely. After that, what else I want to talk about? Yes, whenever you are so that's for you when you're a student. If you are very busy, you have one jobs or multiple jobs and family life and all that stuff going on. You want to start new projects, and we are all creative. There are all so many things we want to do. We all have so many dead projects on our hard drives, like so many of them. I cannot count them anymore. There are too many. So whenever you start a new project, you have to set yourself some very, very clear goals. And to me, that's been a key into succeeding. Like really, really. If you just start like, okay, I want to do this really cool thing, let's start, and boom, you open Maya, you start modeling and then texturing, and then you end up not finishing it, especially if it's a large project. I do spend a fair amount of time at the beginning at setting up my goals. So currently, for example, I'm working on a project that is related to the Dune movie. I want to make a scene that is related to that. And there's a lot of things that are in this scene. It's a huge project, probably the biggest I've ever undertaken in my life. Um, and I knew from the start that this project, because I'm busy, could take me 6 months, could take me 1 year to just finish. I will try to have it done before the rookie award, rookie of the year contest happen, but I'm not even sure I can make it. And it's okay. Like if I miss it, that's not a problem. Like I want to have this one in particular really, really well done and finished. So if you need to understand it's okay to spend the time in doing things, because if you want to be better, if you want to learn more, if you want to be more successful, you have to spend the time to do things right. And this is so crucial in the world of arts. So when I started my project, I set myself up. I have a bit of money saved. I'm hiring some private mentors to help me along the way, and kind of give me feedback on what I'm doing. But I have like an Excel sheet where I lined up absolutely everything and how long it would take. And if I were to judge currently, am I on time? No, I'm not. I'm super late compared with my plan, which already at least 6 months, but it's fine. I'm trying not to feel too guilty about that. That's also something quite important. Like you might be tired after your day's work. And you're like, okay, I want to game, I want to relax, I want to go to, I don't know, out to the bar with my friends or to a club or something, which is fine, and you should do that at least occasionally. But at some point, you also have to realize that having fun is great, but you're working on your own life, and nobody's going to do that for you. So right now, I don't hang out that much anymore. A few times a year, but not that much. And I don't really, I miss that sometimes, but not all that much. It's just that there are priorities, and the priorities are, for me, developing myself, developing my skills, being a better artist, and getting a nice job in the industry. So I think that's so far everything that I wanted to say. Let's have that a bit more casual now. If you guys have any questions, you can write in the chat, or I guess talk, I don't know. The voice is yours, everyone. What's your advice on staying motivated after spending time on a project for a long time? Well, this is the eternal question. On whatever project that I've been doing, one of my old mentors said these words to me, and yes, it's so true. Um, you have your project, and when you are nearing the 90-95% mark of completion, there is what you call the valley of suck. You are so tired of it, you cannot see this project anymore, you cannot see your models anymore, you are tired of all of it. Is there a good recipe for that? No, you just have to push through. Just like when you are running a 5K or 10K, there is a point where you get tired, you want to stop, but while you don't, you have to push through. Maybe take a little break. If you feel really, really too tired, take a break, maybe a couple of days break, maybe even a week break, but no more than that. If it's too long, you're just gonna drop it, and you're gonna end up in your graveyard of dead projects. That's how I do it. That was for Liz. Ward. I struggle with productivity quite a bit until I started using Pomodoro timer. Is that something you've tried? Any other similar tips? I have not tried that, and I don't know what is a Pomodoro timer. Do you know, Nikita?
No, I don't. If you want to put your hand up, feel free to tell us more about it. But I assume it's one of those timers where you click it, it times you, and then it like tells you when the time's up or something like that. But yeah, let us know. I don't know.
While you respond, I'm gonna read Leo's message. Working a part-time regular job, having half a day to work on stuff, working on a game with friends, freelance illustration, where to put and tutorials and courses and triggering, fitting everything, and advice to manage multiple. What I used to do, especially when I was, especially before, when I was well, I've always been a teacher, but when I had my whole holidays, and so summer holidays, the whole 2 months, so I have plenty of time, or a bit less than that, but roughly, and then I have like a Christmas break and all that stuff. I would literally take a piece of paper and draw a schedule like what you had when you were in middle school, literally. And I don't do that on Excel. I could. Everybody knows how to do that, but I am very keen on doing it by hand because when you do it by hand, you kind of appropriate it a bit more. And I would write, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours doing this, 2 hours doing that, 2 hours doing this, 2 hours doing that. And so I would have my full days, the entire week, full of stuff, like way too much. And in my mind, if I manage to complete, let's say 60, 70%, that's a win. So that I don't feel too guilty, I don't feel too depressed, and I still get a lot of stuff done. And this is how I stick in my tutorials and learning. And you do have to do that. Like you have to make the time for everyone. You have to make the time to do your art. You find a way. You have to. Otherwise, I guess that's not the industry for you. Um, so back to work, and then Zainab, you can set a work time to 25 minutes to distraction, then a rest time like 5 minutes, then after. So I've never used that. So yeah, that's what like Nita said. I've never used timers like this, but distractions are definitely a problem, especially in today's age. If I'm bothered with my phone, which I am all the time, I would put my phone in a different room, literally. And like here, I have 3 screens. So usually I watch something on one of my screens and the other two are for work. Uh, if there is any YouTube video, I'm not gonna work. I'm just gonna watch the YouTube video. I'm so bad at that. I'm so easily distracted. But what works for me is that instead of playing whatever random videos, no matter how interesting or not, I put either a podcast or some music, and then just that and leave it there, and then I keep on with my work. I've never used a timer. Maybe I should try sometime, but yeah. Zeynep, I don't know if you mentioned I missed the beginning, but I want to ask you, what would you suggest to stay motivated during unemployed periods when you need to work on the portfolio and apply a job at the same time, especially the situation in the industry lately? So Zeynep, that depends on your field, like what you begin with. Like I'm a math teacher. My first field is not 3D. That came after. So first and foremost, you need to that's what I talked about hierarchy earlier. Priority number one, you have to have your life sorted. You have to pay rent, you have to buy food, you have to buy clothes, you have all that needs to be done. So this is your first and foremost thing. So you're going to apply to a whole lot of places. Maybe that's going to take you I don't know, it could take 2 weeks, it could take 2 months to get a job. Apply, apply, apply. That's your priority number one. Maybe do it in the morning. That's the first thing. And then once you have applied to a bunch of places, I guess you have some time then to work on your things. This is what I would do. Um, then I don't know your situation in particular. Maybe you live with your parents. Maybe some things could help you along the way. Maybe ask around with some family or friends if they can have a temporary job for you that could at least release some of that stress and anxiety, because being unemployed is stressful, definitely. So this is the first thing you need to sort. Um, all right, David, do you think putting timelines on personal project help with being productive, or do you just want a personal project until you're happy with the final result? For me, I think timelines are better. But are you strong enough to meet your own deadline? When it's your boss asking you something, it's very easy to meet the deadline. When it's yourself, it depends on your self-discipline. But I find that having deadlines is good. If you are a student in, say, in a 3D school of sorts, well, you will have deadlines because you have mentors and professors and whatnot. If you're just on your own, learning on your own, I would say maybe not set yourself deadlines, but set yourself milestones. Like I don't know your field, but let's say you're in 3D. Maybe one of your first steps would be to learn properly how to do just pure box modeling, like a hard surface modeling. Be good at that, and that will be your first milestone. And set like a 6 month time frame for that, and then move on to the next one. Do that in big blocks like this, and then you can carry on. This is what every student does. eventually you will become good enough. Maybe you already are, but eventually you're good enough so that you don't think really in terms of like what I need to learn, or a little bit but not so much, more in terms of projects, like what project do you want to do, what big thing. And then in my current case, I'm not setting myself a timeline because I want it perfect. But all my projects before, they all had a timeline and all had a deadline, and that worked fine for me. Well, another question, just information. Pomodoro is a popular time management method where you. All right, so that's a like what Ward said. Okay. Callum, do you put an audiobook on while you work and take breaks from chapter to chapter? I've tried audiobooks. It doesn't work too well for me because I need to focus on what the people are saying, and if I focus on that, and I don't really focus that much on my 3D. So just a random podcast, people talking about whatever. So it doesn't matter if I listen to them. It doesn't matter if I look at them because they're just the people speaking, or just some music. Audiobooks just don't really do it for me. And I have so many, it just doesn't work. But some people love it. Like, it really depends on everyone. You're welcome, Zainab. Ariane, when I work on something that takes a lot of time and see my project again and again, it feels like am I doing the right thing, or is it worth doing my concept? Oh, I don't understand. Or is it worth doing my concept too good? How have you ever felt it, and how you manage yourself? I'm not sure I understand the question, Ariane. But the first part I understand. Am I doing the right thing? Well, this is something that happens all the time. Uh, can you be specific, Ariane, about what your field is? Is it 3D or 2D or something else? So back to David quickly. You are doing a 3D environment and you're learning for yourself by yourself. Um, you lose too much time on small things. So as part of my tutoring, when I have sessions with my students, many of them, there is a bit of everything in students in 3D. So some people prefer characters, some people prefer environments. Um, you, it's always the same. Like I said, you have to set yourself some goals and write yourself a timeline and what needs to be done. So let's say you are doing, I don't know, a house with a forest behind. Um, you're gonna have to model the house and eventually texture it. That comes later. You're gonna have to make the ground in the forest ground. You're gonna have to make the trees and so on. Set yourself some time on each part and try to finish it. If not, then extend that deadline. But if you won't feel like you waste time on small things if everything is laid out properly. Um, maybe in this house you make a bunch of small assets, small props. Maybe it's a warehouse and you have a shovel and a pickaxe and whatever. Right, literally every single item that needs to be done, and then you don't feel like you are wasting your time because you're just going through your list. It feels boring, it feels less creative, but it's necessary to keep the flow going and just to keep at it, because yeah, that's what I would recommend here. Um, Blood. Hi, Maxime. I'm currently working on a small archviz project as a freelancer. I love to work in the video game industry, but seeing the recent news about the state industry, I feel really motivated to keep learning and applying for jobs and advising. I'm the same as you. Not for games, for me, for movies. It's hard. So much so that after my current project, when I apply to a bunch of places, and if I don't get anything, I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess this is gonna be a problem for the future me. But the crisis that has been undergoing for a while kind of stopped now. Like, it's not as bad as it was 6 months or a year ago. Plenty of studios are reopening, and there are more and more indie studios. If you look at stuff like Ubisoft, for example, don't go there, right? Probably you won't get a job anyway because because they are closing down. But there are plenty of indie studios that might be worth a shot, depending on where you are in the world. My location being in China and being a foreigner makes it extremely difficult for me to get a job. If you are in the States, if you're in Europe, there are lots of studios. So try to smaller places, and you don't have to target like a lead job, for example, just junior, and just make sure you have a decent portfolio, some good things. If you feel when you look at your portfolio that something isn't that quite right, quite good, then you know it's not. Get rid of that, make a new one. That's what I would say. Uh, I have the same question, but with 3D character. I'm self-taught, and I just found it really, really hard to take a food industry right now. Well, same answer. Same answer. Just keep learning. Like right now, if you can't get a job, then I mean, you're gonna sit in your chair just looking at your wall and be like, oh, well, what's happening? You have to be proactive and keep doing things. So just learn, do some new project, do some practice. I did do quite a few interviews still, even though I didn't get the jobs. And many times the interviewers told me that having in your portfolio a section with just quick practices, so say 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours tops per piece, no more, is great, and they love to see that. So that's something you could be doing while waiting. Um, so that's for you, Zayo. Ariane, back to your question. Sometimes I make concept of my own and start working in 3D, but sometimes these thoughts come about my art. Like if was doing it, which demotivates me to completing the project as a self-taught artist. That's a tough one. I want to say don't give up. I mean, if that's your passion and you want to do this as your main job, then you have to keep at it, and at least keep at it for the sake of the passion. Like if you just like drawing, then draw, and they will keep you up. Maybe you should remove the pressure of oh, I need to get a job right now with my work. Maybe continue in enjoying it and being passionate about concepting and drawing, and maybe that can keep the flow going for a little while. And in the meantime, continue applying at diverse places. What I just said just before with your portfolio, if you feel like there are some pieces that are just not that great, then remove them. Your portfolio is only as good as your worst piece. So remove what's trash, and you have to be critical, not over critical, but you have you understand what's good and what's not good, and what should go in the portfolio and what shouldn't. I'm not too sure what a concept artist portfolio should look like, how many pieces, but in 3D, for example, we tend to not have too many pieces to look at, and I definitely have too many on mine. I have to kill some, which will be a difficult part of my future few days. I hope this answers your question. Can you share what kind of things you put on your Excel spreadsheet for project planning? Do you have any tips for planning or managing a project to keep yourself organized? Will, did you write what your field is? Are you a 3D artist, Will, or are you something else? 3D. Okay. So, for example, in my current project, so I'm trying to reproduce a couple of shots from the Dune 2 movie. I'm a big sucker for the movie. So I chose the shots that I wanted to reproduce, and they are very, very difficult. Not all of them, but one of them in particular is very difficult and includes many things that I don't know. So in my Excel spreadsheet, your 3D process is always kind of the same. You model your assets and sculpt your people if you need to. So the first stage is always to assemble your scene. You have to have everything in your scene. So that goes from modeling, sculpting, making clothes, garments, and all these things. And once this is done, then the next step is in my case, I want to animate, and I'm also making a rig. So I'm learning how to rig, I'm learning how to animate, and this comes next. If you already have that done, then that's great. After all that is done, there will be the texturing phase, and that comes after. Actually, texturing phase can come pretty much any time after animation, or even after modeling, I would say. Um, I will also have to do some simulation because there is some wind and a few motion on my character that I want to be able to simulate the clothes. So I'm going to do some Houdini for that, and that will come, of course, after the animation. So you split your project into essentially kind of which software you're gonna work in. And then under each software, you have to list very precisely what you're going to do. So, for example, for me, I have a character, I have a spaceship, I have a big building, and some faraway background buildings. So, there is the modeling of all that, and I have to detail exactly like there's only one spaceship that I need to do, and then there is one gigantic building. So, I write that. I write more specifically if this big building has multiple pieces. In my case, there are. So I'm writing not that specific, but like I'm writing so left part, right part, central part, and like there's some sort of balcony. So I'm writing all that down to make sure to make sure it's there. And then there is the background building, which is very, very far away, so we don't really see them, so it doesn't really matter. Probably it's going to be a few cubes here and there. Then for the character, there is the sculpting of the entire body. I'm trying to make a likeness. So that stuff you have to gather your references, but this comes all the way before the reference gathering. You have to make the garments. You have to kind of think ahead about how you're going to texture that, right? That's why you plan ahead. And my texturing process will go through texturing XYZ and using a hand that I bought on a 3D scan store. And so just as today, for example, I finally put the head that I bought and from texturing XYZ and the hand I combine that with the body. I'm going to do a last pass of refinement in sculpting, and I can move on to my animation since I finished my rigging. And you plan like this. You have to be really detailed about what you are doing, and I find this helps. And if you find that in your planning stage like this, if you find that that's too much, then make a shorter project. Make a shorter project. This is the Will you work with at CS Spectrum. Hey, Will. It's good to have you. Great. I 3D rigging artists have noticed that I start to avoid sites like LinkedIn, especially when students from the same school graduated from release. These are more real. Your shampoo theirs look like mine. How could you motivate from or learn from that? I'm a bit the same with LinkedIn, and honestly, on both ways. Like either they've become so good, and I'm so happy they got a job, especially when they were my students. And but some of them, they are really. I'm like, how did you get a job? How did you get one and I didn't? And it just so happens. So I'm not often on LinkedIn. I occasionally receive the emails like, here's an invitation. Do you want to accept or not? Occasionally I had people write a quick comment, and I should be more proactive on LinkedIn. That's something definitely. Be good at socials is very, very important. We have Nikita here, which is wonderful at that. I should learn from her, definitely. But yeah, like don't. It's just like scrolling Facebook with the dumb stuff you see on it, or just like being on TikTok or Instagram Reels. Like all this is pointless and a waste of time. So anything that is not productive of your time, like don't do that. Easier said than done, but avoid doing that. Laurable. Well, to be honest, it's been a year and a half since I graduated, specialized in grooming. And even though I get good feedback on my demo and try to step out of my comfort zone by working on feathers, which are rarely seen in junior demos as a personal project, I get no response to most of my applications. I'm starting to wonder if they even look at demos from people without experience or if we are just immediately rolled out. I'm honestly very surprised because usually groomers are quite sought after. I don't know, continue doing that and continue applying. I'm guessing your grooming happens in Houdini. And if not, do that in Houdini. Because I only know my XGen and XGen is awful. Eventually that you will get through, probably more in the movie industry. Um, like that's a big company, but like if you look, for example, at the ILM page, their website, and the jobs that are open with them, very often I see groomer artists and all kinds of positions from junior, mid, senior. So just continue, don't lose patience. But that said, if you feel like you are really, really, really good in grooming, maybe it's worth learning something else, being a bit more generalized. Like for example, if you do grooming in Houdini, then you know how Houdini works, and maybe it's worth learning some pyro, some smoke simulation, some vellum, some other things that could help you. Okay, that's great. Then learn a few extra things. Maybe not to make you a generalist, but to make you more valuable. Like if you are really good at grooming, but you can also do some simulation, I mean, that's gold. And I can't see you not having a job, especially with something so specific that is so sought after. I very often see grooming artists as job offers. One more question. I am a 2D artist and I feel like 3D plays a big part in the industry today as a tool for perspective and lighting. So I know it's worth learning the basic, but it seems daunting. Do you have any recommendation of people to learn from YouTube channels, social media, etc.? That's a tough one. I don't have a 2D background, so it's a bit tough. How I see it, Ward, is that being a 2D artist assuming you are let's say you're good at that, or at least you know what you're doing, you have good concept in compositions, in colors, in lighting, and values, for example, which are the just the main things in art in general, in photography, right? So let's say you have those assets with you. Those assets can be repeated in 3D, so it feels a bit more maybe theoretical going from 2D to 3D and applying those things, but they are still there with you. Then what you need to learn in 3D are just skills, and skills are not very difficult. What's hard with 3D is the complexity of the project. And by complexity, I don't mean that it's hard. Complex means that there are a lot of pieces. And this is what's difficult. There are so many to track. Um, you just need to know the order in which you need to do things. So your first step in 3D is to learn how to do box modeling, learn how to make a, go to a YouTube called Elemenza, YouTube channel Elemenza. I'm going to type it. Elemenza. It's a fantastic place to learn how to do box modeling, just hard surface, kind of sci-fi. It looks cool, and the mentor there on the channel explains very well, very clearly, very slowly. He's on Maya though. I am on Maya. Many people would recommend Blender. I've never tried it, but I would still recommend Blender because it's free and there are so much knowledge out there about Blender. Everybody is crazy about Blender, and it's getting more and more popular in studios as well. When I look at job offers, more and more studios are looking for Blender artists. So software of choice, probably Blender, because you can do a lot of things in Blender as well, more than Maya, kind of. At least it's more, I guess it's easier to get into it. But yeah, that's what I would do. So learn first how to model. After that, for texturing, I would recommend Substance Painter. There's kind of no way around that. The other alternative would be Mari, which is very hard, and 3D Code, which I haven't really used, but I guess the most popular one is 3D Paint, Substance 3D Painter. This is for texturing, and here your 2D background will be very, very helpful for you. And after that, when it comes about lighting and rendering, this is just spending the time on your computer. Like there is no, you move your light, change the intensity, render, you move your light, change the intensity, render. It's always the same thing. And all of these steps take a lot of time. So start with a small project, go with this guy, Elemenza. To get started in box modeling is great. I believe the guy is in Maya mostly. If you can get Maya, I think it's good. Because it's still very much industry standard. If not Blender, you have a whole bunch of things. And Will, just earlier, who was my former colleague, is a professional Blender user. I'm sure he can drop for you a couple of recommendations.